From our M-Live team. Now, also joining us, Longview Economics founder and chief executive Chris Watling. Chris, thank you for joining us. When you look at how Liz Truss has positioned herself in that speech after she won the premiership, before though, for royal watchers, she goes to see the Queen tomorrow. How will Liz Truss, the campaigner, be different from Liz Truss, the Prime Minister?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, she's obviously got a very large inbox of stuff she's got to deal with. Personally, I'm particularly worried about the currency weakness that we've seen and the imbalance that we see in the UK economy. Particularly if you look at the UK, we've got one of the largest current account deficits in the Western world at a time when she's talking about cutting taxes and giving away a lot of money. So I think how it's funded is really, really important, and that's something she'll have to contend with. Obviously, there's the energy crisis, which is a huge issue. There's obviously what's going on in Ukraine. The whole inbox is very large, but I think what we're focused on is what the currency's been up to, and the challenges, I think, in the British economy at a time when the global economy is probably rolling over into a recession in 2023 and money gets tighter. It's that whole kindness of strangers idea that economy lives on when you run large current account deficits. So yeah, I think it's, reality catches up with you when you start as Prime Minister, particularly if you start in tough times, and I think that's probably what she faces.
Yeah, she also won the Tory leadership, but actually in a closer than expected race. Does that change her policies?
Well, it might mean a little bit of compromise, but I wouldn't have thought so. I think generally when you hit the ground and you're leader, you hit the ground running, and 57% isn't huge, but it's not 51-49. So from that perspective, I think I think she'll go for it and try and lay out all these and implement all these policies she talked about in the run up to the into the election.
Chris, what does this mean for sterling? Is there any good that can come from actually a weaker pound for exports or for anything else?
Yeah, I mean, of course, exports help a bit when you weaken your currency. That's part of the adjustment mechanism. But that works better when you haven't got a lot of inflation. At the moment, we've got very high inflation. A lot of it, of course, coming through energy prices, which are not priced in pounds. So if you get a weaker currency, they get even more expensive for domestic consumers. So, the last thing you want here is a weak currency. You want to defend the currency level, which helps contain the price pressures in the economy and contain the inflation. So a weaker currency is not a good thing. Particularly the mood the market's in. The market mood is really one of just a lot of concern about sterling, a lot of concern about the UK. Yes, I know the dollar's been going up against everything, but there's certainly a lot of chatter. We've seen those 2-year gilt yields back up pretty hard, and bond yields in general. So yeah, I don't think a weak currency is a good thing. I think it is the real risk that she faces there.
Yeah, and Chris, you're right. Actually, if you look at pound, it's also steady after Liz Truss becomes Prime Minister. What would these markets look like, especially gilts, if they were worried about what's coming? More worried?
Well, I think they are worried. I think it's becoming an increasingly popular trade. I mean, the currency's down, what's the number, 15% in a bunch of months. It's moving pretty hard, as you said at the top of this segment. I mean, it's its weakest since 1985, and really it's only briefly weaker than it has been at the moment when it fell off sharply to about parity. But if I stand back and I think about what happens when you go into global recessions with big economic imbalances, your currency generally struggles a lot, and that's what we saw in the financial crisis. We also saw that in the early 1990s recession in the UK. So I'm concerned about the currency. Perfectly plausible, it seems to me, over the next 12 months that it moves below that parity level, and we see some significant weakness from here. So the policy she implements is utterly key. The way she approaches the Bank of England is key, if she's going to reform that, and also the way she goes about implementing new fiscal policy and new approaches to dealing with this energy crisis. Very critical, very key moment for the new Prime Minister.
Chris, we had a note from Kit Jukes today from Societe Generale, and he says, well, this is on him expecting European currencies to remain lower for longer. Now, he writes the following. Friday's announcement that gas flows through the Nord Stream gas pipeline would be stopped for the foreseeable future due to an oil leakage have added further downward impetus, as if any were needed, to the euro and the rest of the European currencies. What happens to euro from here?
Well, I think the euro, there's got to be an argument, there's a bit of a bounce somewhere because it's so beaten up. But, the trend, I think, is lower. It seems to me, it's not often currencies get long-term momentum, but it seems to me that's one of those times. If you think about Europe, it's very difficult to see its way through this energy crisis. We're getting some solutions. We obviously had some from Germany over the weekend, but there's an awful lot to contend with. It looks really quite troubling, and it's very hard to see good reasons to buy the euro at this juncture. So the only real reason to buy it is because you think it's so oversold or beaten up, which, as I say, may get you a bounce. But really, the macro backdrop, the challenge of the energy crisis, the fact you've got war on your doorsteps, and the fact that you're probably in recession or slipping into it, none of that is a good positive, really, for the euro here. So, yeah, maybe a bit of an oversold bounce, but really, I think the trend is down in the euro as well.
Chris, is there anything out there that actually points to good news? I know your shop is called Longview. It's extremely difficult to see what we'll end up with in the long running of this. But is there anything that we should look to for a silver lining?
Well, look, I think it's good that Britain, there's always silver linings, aren't there? And what this will do, reorganise some of the energy policies and hopefully create some energy independence and cause some more economic challenges in the medium term for Russia and their economy. But I like the nuclear policies that have been announced in the UK. I think it's good people are turning nuclear back on. It's pretty safe these days. That's certainly a positive. That'll contribute to cleaning up the greenness of energy. The positives are inflation is going to come down fast, but I think the negative is recession is very likely in 2023, and really the debate is mild or severe. So I frankly, it's quite hard to see many positives in the next sort of 12, 18 months. And that's coming from someone who likes to be optimistic. Beyond that, of course, you always get through these things, and the economic cycle begins again. So it's the way markets work. They're cyclical.
All right, thank you so much, Chris Watling there from Longview. Now.